Okay, ready?
So the basic swing again is a backswing and then turning through to face the target. So you hold the club shaft pointing at the target line, you turn back, you have this angle in your hands, you hit down with those, but as you're doing that, you're turning to face the target. This is Larry Nelson. So many great golfers use this position, Ben Hogan. And then from there, you hit down and your club is still at the target line and you end up facing the target. That's the golf swing. Until you learn that, you can't get better. So, okay, here it is again. Excellent. That's the mini golf swing. That's the swing you develop with your wedge, your mini golf swing, and you take that and make it longer and longer and longer until it works all the time. So that's the short swing, and the long swing of the same thing is here, here, with the timing the same. Your body has to face the target. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Here is a still picture of the address position. Hands are slightly ahead of the center of your body. Your body is neutral. In other words, your knees and hips and shoulders face just left of the target, parallel to the line of your feet, so that you can clear more easily. It makes it better. So that's the basic beginning point. This is a perfect example of the proper takeaway. The takeaway is everything in your swing. As you take the club shaft back, putting it at the target line, you hold the club face so that it's not too open, but you have to point the club shaft at the target line on your backswing for the first 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 feet. Here is the next position. As you're continuing your backswing, the club shaft points upward as you turn your shoulders. You don't move your right hip very much. You don't move your right foot very much. And the club shaft, the other end, the grip end of the club shaft points at the target line. This keeps you perfectly in plane and doesn't require any compensation. This is the key move, the basic move. You must do this. This is the next position in the golf swing. You've continued your backswing for a little wedge shot. This is as far as you need to go. Notice, though, that the club shaft is pointing at the target line. As the target line extends far to your right, the club shaft is still pointed at that. The grip end of the club shaft points at the target line. This is the key to being able to swing through without having to alter or correct the shot or turn their club face closed or turn it open. This is the neutral position, the perfect position for the backswing. Now you need to look at this position. This is continuing the downswing. Notice the angle between your left arm and the club has gone to 90 degrees. In this case, it's increased. And you're pointing the grip shaft of the club at the target line still. So all of the momentum of the club, the flex of the club, is pointed at the target line and will extend down the target line toward the target. So all of your swing, all of the speed, all of the effort, which is minimal effort, it's just using the golf club to do this, will travel and carry the golf ball down the target line to the target, pointing the club shaft at the target line. You're still pointing the club shaft at the target line, and your body is starting to clear or turn to the left. This delays the release of your wrists and allows all this power as you hit into the golf ball. And because you're pointing the club shaft at the target line, this time it's the lower end of the golf club where the club head is, you're taking all of the momentum and hitting it at the target. Therefore, the ball goes at the target correctly with power, even with an easy, simple swing. Now, I know it doesn't seem important, but right now this club is still pointed at the target line after you've hit the golf ball. This carries the momentum through the golf ball, makes the swing work without having to do any corrections. This carries the momentum through. This is the Ballard method. This is so many other people teach this in some concept or other, but this is why it works. Pointing the club shaft at the target line, the momentum is going to the target. This is a continuation of that same concept. The club shaft is pointed at the target line, which actually is pointed a little left of the target now because you've swung through, but you have not released the hands over the ball. You haven't hit at the ball like that. You've turned your body to face the target. This simplifies the swing 1,000 times. It makes it so simple and so consistent and repetitive. This is one of the keys to this. Notice as the follow through continues, you've turned your body to face the target. The hands are directly in front of your body where they were at address. And this is what you've done. You've taken the club back, pointing the club shaft at the target line, swinging the club shaft at the target line the entire time until you turn through. And this gives you a perfect wrist-free, error-free downswing. It hits the ball at the target. That's the key. Notice the follow through. Just the club continues to move. You turn the body to face the target. You've come up on your right toe a little bit. The weight is supposed to be more on your left. You're facing the target, and the club has turned through. But through the swing, the backswing and the downswing, you pointed the club shaft at the target line. Here's another method of showing that. The lasers are attached to the club here and here, and this shows the backswing, pointing the club shaft at the target line, which is the center of the styrofoam piece. As you take it back, the club shaft points at the target line. It continues to point at the target line to infinity. I can see it on the wall to my right. And then as you take the club back and it extends upward, you can see this other end of the club shaft pointing at the target line until you swing down, and that end of the club shaft is pointing at the target line. And as you swing further and get further into the swing, this end returns to the target line. That means you're always swinging correctly in plane, providing all the momentum to the target line, which means the golf ball flies at the target. It's pretty much that simple. So in slower motion again. And they're going to be, the lasers aren't attached to this club very well, but they're going to be, of course, errors. But you just can't have this. Can't have this. You can't have this and here because you're not on the target line and your momentum is going in the wrong direction. Here it's going this way. Here it's going this way. Or you have to make an adjustment to bring it back, which is very difficult to do consistently. So swing the club back using the target line. Swing the club back to using the target line. Swing the club down using the target line. Swing the club down using the target line. This is a very good illustration of the backswing. You've taken it back 2 feet, 2.5 feet, and you're pointing the club shaft at the target line. You're setting up your entire swing. If you hold the club face in a reasonable position, this gives you so much consistency if you work on this and pointing the club shaft at the target line. You've now heard me say pointing the club shaft at the target line a few hundred times, and if you haven't figured it out, that is the key to golf. If you do that, you have a perfect swing plane. You're always sending the ball where your target is. Now, that doesn't have to be the hole. You could be hitting 20 feet right of the hole, and that's what your target should be. The club shaft should point at your target line. That's the key to hitting the golf ball square and solid with spin, with power. Again, continuing the backswing, pointing the club shaft at the target line to your right, which in this case is parallel to the target line because you're waist high, the club is level to the ground, so it's actually pointing at the target line. If you would look at it, it would be. And this gives you the perfect swing plane. Continuing the backswing, notice the club shaft points at the sky, but the grip end of the club points at the target line, and that's the key. You're always in plane. You're always using the momentum of the golf club to hit the ball where you're aiming it at the target line. This is essentially the furthest point you take the club back with a wedge shot like this. Of course, my arm is bent because I'm older and I have to hold this position. I'm not swinging the club, actually. I'm holding this for the photos. But the grip end of the golf club points at the target line. This is where the power starts. Doesn't matter how hard you swing up to here. You can even stop here and then swing down with the next part of the move that increases the angles in the right hand, the right arm. So that is also something important. The beginning of the downswing, the club shaft, the grip end of the club is still pointing at the target line. As you start to turn the body to face the target, and you increase the angles in your right arm so that you're hitting down and pointing the club shaft almost vertical or even more than that. Notice the angle is increased slightly in this downswing position. As you continue the downswing, the angles in your right arm increase and the club is actually now vertical to the ground with the club shaft pointing at the target line. This is the position you try to emulate, you try to copy, pointing the club shaft down, not letting your right hand or right arm release. You try to retain those angles as far as you can. And because you're pointing the club shaft at the target line, you can. You won't hook or slice it. It's sending all the momentum right down the target line. This is the key to golf. Because you take the club away correctly, pointing the club shaft at the target line, you cannot delay this release too much. It's impossible. You're always hitting the ball at the target line because that's where the momentum is going. You're not swinging inside out or outside in. You're not releasing early. You're saving all your power, but because the club shaft points at the target line, the momentum carries down the target line to the target, which is what you want to do. This is still showing just after or before you hit the golf ball that the club shaft is still pointing at the target line. The club shaft is actually pointing ahead of the golf ball, and you have more than 90 degrees in your wrists, and this is what gives you power. And because you're pointing the club shaft at the target line, it also gives you direction. You hit the ball in a 1 or 2 or 3%, 3-degree radius. You hit the ball at the target. And again, your target doesn't have to be the golf hole. It could be the right side of the green or the right side of the fairway. That's your target. That's what you aim at. And when you do this, you hit the ball correctly. Continuing in the downswing, the club shaft is now parallel to the ground, and the shaft is pointing at the target line in both directions. It's pointing at the target line with the grip end and with the club head end, and this means all the momentum and all the power is delivered to the golf ball in the right direction. Notice the grip end of the club shaft is now pointing towards the sky. The club head end of the club shaft is now pointing at the target line, but that's the goal. You're perfectly on plane doing this. Again, releasing all the momentum in the right direction. This is a key. This is the secret that no one has gotten yet. Just prior to impact, the club shaft is pointing at the target line. You have released the angles. You're releasing the angles as you swing, and all the power is going into the golf shot perfectly. This is the whole key. This is the position you want to have. This position, this photograph shows just after you've struck the ball, the club shaft is pointing at the target line. The club is square because, of course, that's how you took it back, as you hold as you take it back. So now, again, all the momentum is gone where you're aiming it. You're not correcting by hitting it one direction or another with your hands. The hands are almost passive. That club shaft does the work. Still pointing the club shaft at the target line, and you do this so that you don't come off the ball and you turn through correctly. You don't want to hit too much with the hands, or you don't want to come off and stand straight. You want to turn through, and pointing the club shaft at the target line continues that move. That's why you do this. Continuing the follow through, as you turn through, the club shaft of course, points at the target as you turn through. It's a simple position, but you do this so you don't come off the ball. You still swing through. Here you're continuing the turn through the ball. You've already hit the ball, but you're continuing the turn so that you're making a reasonable, good swing. You're not coming off the ball. You're not stopping. And at this point in your swing, you're decelerating. The body is slowed down. You've turned to face the target. The club is coming up beside your head. You're not hitting with the hands necessarily. You're just turning through with the body, simply. Turning your body to face the target. I'm now facing the target. The hands have relaxed. I haven't really hit hard with the hands. I've turned through with the body. The hands have released because they can. The angles release, and that's where the power is. It's not hitting hard and banging with your shoulders. It's swinging through using the correct position of the golf club. Good morning. Here is another lesson using the laser club, where the laser is attached to a golf club. You can see I've attached them here. This is the prototype. This patent, of course, has been applied for. But it shows the method. This is the target line here, the center of this white styrofoam thing. As you point the club shaft at the target line, as you take it back, you holding, so you keep the club in that position, and you continue taking it back to infinity, which I can see it on the wall behind me. And then as you come back, the club extends up, and the other end of the club is pointing its line at the target line. And as you swing down, this means you're perfectly in plane. And this means you're perfectly in plane when this comes down like this and swings through. So that's how you determine target line and taking the club back. It gives you a measurable way to do this. Okay. This is a photo from 1985, more than 40 years ago, showing the downswing position, using my knees to start the downswing. Being so tall, it's difficult to do it any other way. Pointing the club shaft at the target line, and the target line is drawn in the ground. This shows you the dynamics, the positioning of the downswing. And this is the key, getting this 90-degree angle or more on the downswing. And you can do that because you're not going to hit the ball 40 yards right or 40 yards left. Your club shaft is pointed at the target line. You'll be hitting the ball at the target, whatever your target is. That's the key. Pointing the club shaft at the target line is the key to playing perfect golf. Notice this downswing position. There is absolutely no release of the wrists. This is the beginning of the downswing. The left knee started to move toward the target. My shoulders have started to open up a little bit or turn a little bit. And I'm swinging the club shaft down, pointing the club shaft at the target line. This is the key to hitting the ball far, straight, and consistently. You need to emulate this position. You need to copy this position. You need to work on being in this position. Setup is almost everything. I've been setting up lately and swinging badly because I'm setting up like this. My right hip is kicked out. My club is back this way. You can't bring the club back to the ball, too much of a move. So what Jimmy Ballard teaches is everything is neutral and you just step down into the ball. That's at least a beginner's position. A lot of the pros do this with the left hip forward instead of back, the left hip forward, and then the club leaning a little forward. That's one reason they hit the ball so far. They take the loft off. And doing that, it makes the move on the downswing. The hips lead better, the hands are far behind, and it retains the angles. These angles right here, the angles we're talking about, the ones that are set up on the backswing, retaining them. And from this position, you can't do that. They have to release back here to even get back to the ball. So setup is a lot of the golf swing, the golf clubs. This is a wedge, a sand wedge. It goes up to here. A driver can go up to here. I have my driver. But so from the side, and you can see this, if I'm swinging, this angle of my club is way less than if it's this close, which is a wedge. So a driver is a certain angle off the ground, and a wedge is a certain steeper angle. So you have flat to steep, all in the same swing, all in the same golf bag. This is why Bryson DeChambeau, and it was invented a long time ago, use clubs that are all the same length so that they get in a position that they love. This is a great setup position for me for feeling and everything. And all the clubs can be that length. The angle on the the club head gives you distance. The rest gives you one consistent plane. So you're not coming off short shots and coming over long shots. It's just a better way to swing if everything is the same distance. Every club shaft is the same distance. That's advanced, this method advanced. This is one reason why kids are better when they start, because they're swinging with longer clubs and they're out here like this, and they're automatically taking the club back the right way. People that get tall, as you get taller, imagine this was a woman's club and short like that, I'm taking the club on such a vertical angle as I take it back that I don't have any flat swing plane, and it's so hard to move around then when it's this vertical. That's why many of the swings you see me take, my hands go back and it's almost vertical coming into the ball because I'm too tall for golf actually. Whereas if I were swinging a 5-iron here, I'd be taking the club back like this and turning through, and it's just much easier to clear. Okay? You ready? The next concept in golf is very important. You're taking the club back, pointing the club shaft at the target line. You're holding the club face, not allowing it to get too open or too closed. You're keeping it neutral. Now, if you're an average golfer, you probably want to close it a little bit more, turn the toe down a little more. That gives you a better swing. If you flip it open, you tend to start doing this, and it's hard to get back to the ball. You tend to hit a lot of pushes. So square or even close slightly is better. But the next thing is, as you take it back, pointing the club shaft at the target line with the club face being held, as you swing through, you stop your body and ruin your golf swing. That's what most people do, because you can't hit the ball like this. The great golfers of all time go here, back, and they turn through, and they turn through to this position. So, and the greater ones are even this way. I can't do that anymore because I'm too old. But the great golfers turn more than 90 degrees on their shoulders on the follow through. All of them. You watch, you'll see that. So this is the general concept here. And that was pretty good. The ball flies better. You don't stop and manipulate the ball with your hands. You're just swinging through. It takes the nerves out of your golf swing. So here's another example. Now that was a little bit of a block, and I stopped my body, which is why the ball went slightly to the right.
Okay.
So, almost all the great golfers, when they warm up, they do that move. They set up properly, they put their hands a little forward, their shoulders are square, their hips are square, they're taking the club back, pointing the club shaft at the target line, they set the angles, and then they turn through, and that's what they work on for 15 swings, to remember how to do it. Almost all of them. I've watched the range with pros many, many times, and that's what they do. Here's a mini example. Perfect. Again. That dances on the green and stops. And you're hitting the golf ball only. It's pure. I think you can hear the difference. So